All right, so you guys wanted to go deep on No Country Left. Definitely an interesting choice for a deep dive, I have to say.
Yeah.
Not our usual kind of source material.
Yeah, not exactly light listening, eh?
Uh-huh. No, not really. But you're right, though. There's a lot to unpack here. A lot more than you might think just from like a casual listen.
Oh, absolutely. I think this song really gets at something, like a kind of shared anxiety we're all feeling.
Well, let's jump into it then, shall we? Right from those opening lines. You know, blood in the dust, got to make a choice. I mean, talk about setting the scene.
Doesn't waste any time, right? You're immediately in this world where things are rough and trust is a luxury.
Yeah, you get the sense that every decision could be life or death.
Hmm.
Like, who do you follow? Who can you even trust? It's heavy stuff.
And then there's that line about the devil with a quiet face. That always gets me.
Ooh, yeah. It's not some, over-the-top evil. It's much more subtle, much more insidious.
Exactly. It's like the danger you don't see coming, the threat that hides in plain sight.
Kind of like what happened with the housing crisis back in 2008.
Oh, for sure. Or like even think about the rise of misinformation these days. It's not always blatant lies. It's the stuff that seems plausible that really gets you.
That's a good point. And then you hit that chorus, and I mean, wow. No country left for me, no safe place to hide. Like, talk about bleak. But I think we both agree this idea of country goes way beyond a physical place.
Right. It's more like a state of mind, a feeling of belonging, maybe even like a shared set of values.
So what happens when you lose that? When you feel like the world around you doesn't reflect your values anymore?
Well, I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. There's so much division these days, so much polarization. It's like everyone's retreating into their own little echo chambers.
And in that environment, it's easy to feel like you've lost your country.
Yeah. And then that line about justice being blind, like that really drives it home. You're not just lost, you're also vulnerable.
It's like the systems that are supposed to protect us are failing. Or maybe they were never really there to begin with.
It's that feeling of being powerless, at the mercy of forces beyond your control. And I think that's something a lot of people can relate to.
But then we move into verse 2, and it's like a shift in tone, almost a longing for simpler times. When good guys won and the law drew the line, what do you make of that?
Well, there's definitely an element of nostalgia there, like maybe things weren't always so bad, but it also makes you question, were those good old days really so good?
Right, like what did those good guys actually represent? And were things ever really that black and white?
I mean, think about the stories we tell ourselves about history. It's always more complicated than we remember.
Absolutely. And then there's that line, every man's got a price. That one really stuck with me. It feels super cynical. Like, is that really what the song is saying about human nature?
Well, I think it's more nuanced than that. It's not necessarily saying that we're all inherently corruptible. It's more like everyone has a breaking point.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, in extreme circumstances, even good people might be forced to compromise their values.
Right. And I think that ties back to the idea of no country. When the world around you is falling apart, it's hard to hold on to your principles.
And then we hit the bridge, and things get really dark. End of the line, no law left to fight. It feels like all hope is lost.
Yeah, it's like the culmination of everything the song's been building towards. You reach a point where you just can't fight anymore.
And the way it talks about endless night and evil slipping in with quiet eyes, it's so chilling.
It's not a loud, dramatic evil. It's something far more subtle and pervasive, and I think that's what makes it so terrifying.
It's like the evil is already inside you.
Yeah, exactly.
Throughout the song, there are all these recurring images, too.
Yeah.
The road, the dark, the unseen. I feel like those are more than just setting details.
Definitely. I think they work on a symbolic level. Like the road could represent the journey of life with all its twists and turns. And the dark, well, that could be the unknown, the things we're afraid of.
And the unseen.
Maybe the unseen is like those hidden dangers, the threats we don't even realize are there.
So ultimately, this song leaves us with a pretty bleak outlook. Loss, disillusionment, and this feeling that the world is on the brink of collapse.
Yeah, but I think there's also a deeper message there. Like if this is the country we've inherited, what responsibility do we have to change it?
That's a good question. Maybe even if there's no country left, we can still choose to build a new one. Something better.
That's a thought, huh?
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.